Welcome to 30 Minutes of Faith. We're here today with a friend, Jas Singh Grewal, who walked into these offices a year or two ago with his brother to talk to us about some things that you were thinking about. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what's going on in your life these days?
These days, I have my own company, construction company. Working on a house right now. Actually, took me 5 minutes to get here in East Sac, and working day and night to get that thing back on the market. So I flip houses.
Oh, good. And so you're staying busy?
Very, very busy.
How big of a crew have you got?
Got a lot of guys. Got a lot of guys right now, and actually working right now, and they're too many actually right now because they are stepping on each other's toes. Because I'm trying to get it done rather than just having the electricians come, the plumbers come, and everybody individually. I'm having them all there at once because I got to bust it out. So.
Are you good at a particular phase, or are you a good rough carpenter or sheetrocker or electrician?
I'm really bad at electrical work. I can tell you that. Good. I'm pretty good at most other trades. I just I don't want to get zapped with electrical.
I'm pretty good at most of the trades in my life, but I dislike plumbing so bad there aren't enough words to describe how much I dislike plumbing.
Why is that?
Well, sometimes you have to be standing on your head and you wish you had an eye on the end of your finger, and it's just, plumbing's always in sort of a bad spot.
They got a lot of nice technology out there these days where that, camera on your finger, they just poke it in and it's like a little handheld cordless thing. You put it in, you can find drain leaks, and there's so much stuff out there these
Well, then
days.
that's my problem. I'm still relying on how I was taught to plumb 40 years ago.
Yeah.
How about your social life? What's going on these days with the big, strong, good-looking young people?
There is no social life right now. My social life is at house, and that's been the story of my life for the last 2 months. There's just so much going on. I don't hate to sound like a broken record, but that's where I've been day and night, just trying to get this house back in the market because it's so important. There's two big things. One is the timing. If I wait too long to get it on the market, then the summer season is over and then it slows down, so the chances of me reselling is less. And the second is they always talk about this big influx of homes from the banks. That right now there's not a lot of properties out there, especially in East Sac. So if they release that, then my value goes down too. So there's two big factors. That's why I'm just day and night just go in there, work. So.
I saw in the paper a day or two ago an article that talked about there aren't that many homes available, and so prices are going back up.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're at least flat and slightly inclining, but you're right. That's true.
Have you built any new homes?
No, I've built an addition, put a new addition on this, 1,000 square feet in the back, and not any new homes yet.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in England. Born in England, all three of us, my two sisters and I, were born in England, and came to New Hampshire when I was 4 years old, and then spent like half of my schooling there. Then moved to LA when I was about 7th or 8th grade. Finished high school, finished college, moved up here, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago.
Where did you go to college?
Cal State Northridge.
Oh.
Yeah.
And are your parents still alive?
They are. One is in Florida. He goes back and forth from Sac to Florida. The other one is here. So.
And your sisters are in good health?
They're here too. So everybody's kind of here in Sacramento.
And you went to college, but now you've got a construction company. How did that come to
I
be?
have no idea. I have a degree in finance, which is totally related to construction. It's just one of those things. When I got out of college or university, I was interning at Morgan Stanley, and then they hired me there as full-time once I got my degree, and I just didn't like the corporate world. I moved from Morgan Stanley to Bank of America, which actually was countrywide. Then Bank of America bought them out, and then I still didn't like it. And I was like, oh, I don't think the corporate world is for me. So then we moved up here to Sacramento, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to try opening my own business. And the prices of homes here are much, like less than half the cost of LA, so it's easier for me to flip.
And how about, had you had a little construction experience, summer
Yeah.
jobs and things?
Yeah, I've been doing construction for over 10 years, and then finally got my license a couple of years ago.
One of my summer jobs in college was to go to a married student housing area.
Married student?
Married student housing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had fourplexes and just a single door that went in each one. And there was no awning or anything, and so they had me install over the doorway a metal awning to just keep the rain off of the door. And it was an inch or two wider than the door, and it stuck out about 8 or 9 inches, and it required, 2 drilled holes and screws going up one side and 3 or 4 across the top. And it was before, cordless drills, so you dragged a couple of big cords with you,
Yep.
and a drill and a belt with a box of screws and a couple of drill bits. And this place had, 700 units or something all summer long. I'd go to school half time, then go put these over the doors, and it was boring and tedious. Hot, but got my check every Friday, and all those other things to keep going, so I felt reasonably good about it. But I did, when fall came and I went back, I promised myself I wouldn't do that again the following summer or ever again. But I too have spent a lot of time with construction stuff.
You're in construction now, right?
Well, I'm in property management, and we do a lot of repairing, but I'm no longer doing any of that. So, when you and your brother walked in here that day,
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law.
Pretty much like a brother.
A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, what was going through your mind and your life then?
Coming up here from Sacramento, I was looking around at the different gurdwaras, which is the temple for Sikhs. And I started talking to the committee members there, and I was like, just like LA, all the people who are, say, less than 30, in their 20s and less than 30, say, they're not really coming to Gurdwara anymore. And when you look at the congregation, it's just mainly old people and really young people, nothing in the middle. So we're like, how do we connect more to those types of people? And I think it was, as far as our Gurdwara, a lot of it is the message. We speak in Punjabi, and I speak decent Punjabi, but the language that's spoken at the Gurdwaras is more formal, and it's harder to understand. So I recommended to them that we have some English sessions in there, because we are, here in California, so we should have a few minutes of English sessions, and they want us to learn Punjabi. They don't want us to forget our Punjabi tradition. And so they were kind of against having English, because they're like, you can speak English everywhere else, why don't you at least speak Punjabi here and try to learn, which they have a point. But them having that point, prevents other people from coming in and learning actually what the message is. So then Jay and I started having small sessions on the side with the people of our age in the Gurdwaras, so we could learn about our religion and talk about spirituality and stuff like that. And then we started talking to our neighbors who are of other faiths, and we'd have Iron Man groups with my Christian friends, and then we'd kind of talk about other religions, and we just Googled Interfaith, found this place, and met you, and then just kind of hit it off and started telling you or asking you about doing service projects, and we're very passionate about that and getting out there rather than just chatting and having boardroom meetings and roundtables, actually getting out there and doing things hands-on. So that's a long story.
Were you raised in a Sikh home then?
Yes, I was. Both my parents are Sikh, and they're from Punjab, and born and raised there. Came to England when they're in their early 20s. So they're pure Punjabi, and they're just.
Does your father wear a turban?
No.
Did your grandfathers?
Yes. Both grandfathers wore turbans, and Yeah, he doesn't, and neither do I, obviously.
I went to a Sikh thing a year or two ago, and they asked me if I wanted to wear a turban. I said, you bet. And they brought out this piece of cloth that was really, really long, and it was spectacular to me, Jas, the way that man could put that on top of me, and I wore it all night long, and I went home with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's a
later
skill.
that evening, I showed it to the grandchildren, and they just thought that was the coolest thing. Grandpa, you should wear that all the time.
Yeah, it requires a pretty, like you have to tie it in a certain way. I'm still kind of getting it, but once you know how to do it, it looks really nice.
It really does.
But I don't wear it, but I have a lot of respect for the people who do it because it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of, not only do you have to keep your hair, and that's a whole nother, keeping it clean and all that and brushing it. But yeah, tying the turban and keeping that, that's, it requires a lot of discipline, a lot of, discipline.
Well, I also have a great deal of respect, and I've got quite a lot of few friends in the Sikh community these days, and some wear them and some don't.
Exactly. Not only does it require a lot of, self-respect and a lot of discipline, because you have to keep it and wear it in a certain way, but also outsiders too, because you're going to be looked at differently. I wore the turban to the candlelight vigil last Friday.
Yes.
And just wearing it one random day, you see when you're walking down somewhere on a public street, they don't look at you like in a bad way. They just kind of look at you again, like just kind of double take. Some of them are negative, but most are positive. So yeah.
How long will this misidentification go on in America that the Sikhs wearing turbans are the Taliban from the mountains of Afghanistan?
I think it's as long as we don't get our message across. It's as long as we stay silent.
And hopefully we will not stay silent.
Yes, and it's this whole Wisconsin shooting is very bad, of course, but it's also a wake-up call for us as Sikhs, because we need to not stop living our own lives, which I'm totally doing right now, but get out there, talk to our neighbors, talk to the guy next door, just to let them know who we are. I'm sure we can learn about our neighbors as well. So just getting out there a little bit more, I think it will really help.
I noticed a news report the other day that the Gurdwara there in Oak Creek, I think it is, had been reopened, so that but they were going to leave one bullet hole in the wall that was in an obvious place so that people would always see it as a reminder of what had taken place there. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. That sounds cool.
I thought that was kind of cool. And then the other thing that I was going to mention to you about all of that, my association with people who are of the Sikh religion every time comes to people who are hardworking. They're always industrious. They've never been afraid of work. They're not afraid of education. They're not afraid of being educated. They like to be together. Every time I go to a Gurdwara in Sacramento, they want to feed me. They've always got good food.
Yep.
And most of it, to my taste bud, is wonderful. And I really, really like it. Was your mother a good cook?
Yeah, she's a really good cook, and I'm a vegetarian now, but she made the best chicken curry. She still makes really good vegetarian food, but yeah, it's part of the Gurdwara as well. You go there, you can have free meals. It's the langar, it's called langar, where anybody can come in and eat, because you need to, I think, I'm not very educated on it, but I think the concept goes where you have to make sure that your body is satisfied as far as, being fed, not starving before you can actually worship. So that's why it's there at the Gurdwara, so you can make sure that you're fed, and then you can go in and meditate and be spiritual. So that's why it's there, right, next to the hall.
I want to go back to the turbans for just a minute, because I want to ask you kind of a personal question.
Sure.
I personally think the turban is a great sign of the religion. At the same time, when when I meet young legal counsel or, you know, media specialists and that who are representing the Gurdwara, they don't wear turbans, and I understand why. They live in a Western world and all of those other things. But if a family comes from England to New Hampshire, by the time they get to the third or fourth generation, will the turban just be a thing of the past?
That's a really good question. And Jay and I always argue about this. Because he's like, you know, yeah, we're going to be losing our identity pretty soon as generations go on. And I guess it gets kind of controversial because...
And I didn't mean it to be that.
It should. I mean, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it does, because I have a little bit different view than maybe he does or the rest of the Sikhs do, because I see it as that's part of the religion, part of the identity, but it's kind of not. Where the holy text, the Guru Granth Sahib, it's all about spirituality, but then the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, talked about the identity. So they do go hand in hand, but for me it's more important to focus on the religion first and then the identity. So I have to...
That's a good way to say that.
So that's how I look at it, but other people don't. So.
I mentioned to you earlier that one of our son-in-laws is Tongan from the islands of the South Pacific. He came here as a growing boy and brought his traditions and culture with him, married our daughter, who's just a sweet, dear little American girl, you know. As they've had children, he wants them to know and understand the Tongan traditions and the traditions of the chieftains and the warriors and the tribes and all those other things. But they are going to American public school where, as far as they're concerned, they're just American kids. You know, they Disneyland and you know, whatever else. So it's a little extra hard. Fortunately, our daughter wants them to know the Tongan things too, so they'll... But I watch that standing back, and by the time they're having children, and they could marry Asians or somebody from the Middle East or somebody from Ukraine, you know, that's the way we are in our society, and I'm in favor of that. But they might get to their grandchildren, and Tonga doesn't mean anything else than 4 other countries along the genealogy line there. Yeah,
it's very true. As we get more diverse, it becomes a melting pot, and then you do lose some of that heritage, I think. So it just comes with the territory.
It is a big territory. The Sikhs are have a strong identity in Greater Sacramento.
Yes.
They're well respected and well thought of, and unfortunately, trial and tribulation has caused, you know, good people to flock toward them. But how many Sikhs are there in America? Do you know that?
I don't. I know there's 25 million in the world. India has 0.2% of Sikhs.
Really?
Yeah, only, no, not 0.22%. So 20 million in India and then 5 million abroad. There's a lot in Canada, and less than 1 million here, I think. 700,000 or something like that.
Well, obviously they have a good relationship with the United States. You know, and one of the things I've liked about them too, and this is just my opinion, but we see them owning service stations. We see them driving trucks. I was on a site the other day where a dump truck came in with bark and all those other things, and the man who was driving the truck was wearing a turban, and he and I had a nice visit. We see them as cab drivers. We see them doing a whole variety of things. The women are doing wonderful things in the trades, and yet we see a lot of the Sikhs, well educated like you, who are making a difference just out there in the neighborhood. And that isn't always said of every religion and, you know, every culture. So I tip my hat to the Sikh community.
Yeah, it's we're very progressive, very competitive too with each other. Like, we're always trying to get higher and higher success. You know, it's just the way. I don't know if it's the way I am. I don't know how it is with all the other Sikhs, but I don't know. I never thought about it.
Are you competitive in sports?
Yes, I'm competitive in sports and really anything. I do boxing and wrestling and stuff like that, and yeah, I get very competitive.
And how do you do? Do you fare all right?
Decent. decent. Depends on the competition. I mean, I'm a blue belt, I think, in jiu-jitsu, and against other blue belts, I do pretty well. I mean, black belt, I get my butt kicked. White belts, I dominate. So I'm kind of in the middle.
We've got children taking judo, and we go to the meets, and these little tiny kids, and they're going through all of that discipline, and
Yeah.
that's really fun to watch. And they get competitive.
Yeah.
They're just little 3 and 4 and 6 and 7-year-olds, and they get very competitive.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite sport in Sacramento? Or are you following the Cats or the Kings?
I don't really follow basketball or football. I follow UFC, mixed martial arts. Uriah Faber's right here in Ultimate Fitness down the street. I used to go to his gym, and now I go to a place in Rancho Cordova. But I follow that the most.
What makes that good fighter? I mean, is he just terrifically strong or super quick, or what?
I think, speed is a big factor, agility, stamina, and then, power and strength is lower down the list. But a lot of it is mental. I would say that's the biggest skill you can have, is you're keeping your heart rate down, not getting all tense, and just, you can't throw a punch if you're really tense. So just staying calm, not getting angry, not fighting with anger. A lot of that is, in your brain. And then, speed and agility and flexibility and strength. So.
Is there something topic-wise, a subject of spirituality that appeals to you more than something than
a topic like what?
Well, faith or love or discipline, or is there something that kind of motivates you and drives you spiritually?
I don't know. I think what motivates me is just to find myself. I know if I find myself, then I can be more content. It's a battle within myself is what I think spirituality is. And it doesn't matter who's around me. I mean, it helps if you have the good people around you, but it's more about my internal battle, I think.
Have you found yourself?
I think that takes a lifetime. It's not going to happen overnight. I can't say I've fully found myself. I'm close. I mean, I'm getting there. But I don't think I've fully found myself, no.
One of the things about contentment that I'm smiling on the inside a little bit is when you are young, you want a nice, I'm talking about boys, you want a nice car, you want a nice home, you want a lovely woman to love and care for. You want to be able to travel a little bit, and you want to be able to do a whole variety of these things. But when you get older and you've already had those things, and that really nice home now you're spending a lot of time and money trying to keep up with, and long ago you've had plenty of nice cars, and you've been a variety of places and things. The contentment really does come from within. Are you at peace?
Yep, exactly.
I am, as long as I don't have to plumb anything, as long as something doesn't break under the kitchen sink.
And you get that high-tech tool.
I'll have to do that.
But you're right, yeah. I'm already seeing, like, I'm 29, and I see, like, things that my milestones, if I get this and I get this, I'll be good. I'm done. I'm so happy. But then once you get those, it's, okay, that's nothing. I want something else now. That list never ends. So I'm realizing that, so that's the first step, to realize that the list doesn't ever end. So if it doesn't end, then why don't I try to become more content now, I think is my goal, and realize it through, just being happy. I mean, if I do look around myself and I see there's a guy who's working for me, and I didn't know it. I was like, where do you stay? Where do you live? He's like, over there. He's like, I'm living in a motel. I was like, motel. Yeah, it's like a couple more days over there, but then I'm out of there. And it's like, where are you going from there? And he said, well, in there, my truck. So, but you wouldn't guess that the way he acts and the way he is. And that hit me, a couple days ago. I was like, wow, I mean, I go home to my nice warm bed and can take a shower and stuff like that. So he's closer to contentment than I am. And I have all these other worldly goods around me, so.
That's a nice way to say that he's more content. Athletically, sports-wise, when I was growing up, nobody could catch me. And I liked that. I could outrun my older brothers, in sport things in school, I could outrun everybody. And, oh, I don't know, at 40 or something, somewhere along through there, 45, one of our sons wanted to race down the block, and he beat me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite discouraging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, inside I thought, wow, you know, I haven't lost a foot race since I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Then comes the day when your grandchildren, Grandpa, you want to race. Well, you know you're not going to beat them, but inside you're really hoping they can win anyway. That's what you want as the grandfather.
Yeah.
And it's
You're hoping to beat your grandkids?
No, I'm hoping that they'll beat me.
Oh, okay.
You know, you're saying, oh, I hope.
I was going to say.
No, I hope the grandchild can run like the wind. You know, and as they leave you in the dust, you're saying to yourself, "Oh, I used to be able to run like that," and
yeah,
so it was fun.
I see.
Well, we're coming to the end here, and
oh, that was fast.
I appreciate so much that you would come and join with us. I want to ask the question I always ask of our guests: if you can wave a magic wand in society and humanity and change something, what would that be?
Change something with my magic wand. I'd have to say that change would be education and diversity, like getting people aware of other people, really, and that creates. Hold on, let me think of it. Yeah. I would say just, education and knowing who's around you, knowing who's on the other side of the world, really. Just learning about other people and other faiths and other cultures is what I would, wave my magic wand at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be a good choice. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.